Right, well, welcome everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Dave Eastham, Executive Director of EARS, and this is another of our ongoing webinars that we've been providing for our partners. Today we have Annette Pedersen, who is Coordinator of Welfare and Training at Copenhagen Zoo. I'm not going to say too much, but in advance of it, but just to say, if you have any questions, we're going to have a session like 15 minutes at the end. It's going to be 45-minute presentation and 15 minutes of questions and answers. Or feel free to put them in the chat as you go along, and then I'll try and get my way through them at the end as well. So if something occurs to you, feel free to make a note of that in the chat, or just raise a hand at the end and you can ask it in person if you prefer. So I'm going to hand over to Annette, and yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you so much. And yeah, if we just take the questions afterwards, that would be fine. I mean, I don't mind if something is really urgent and people need, to ask a question to get, the idea of what's going on in the presentation. You can interrupt if you want to. It's up to you.
Okay.
You can decide, Dave. I don't mind.
Annette, can I just ask one question? Is it possible to speak slowly? Because there are many people from different countries and it would be easier. Thank you very much.
I will do that. And thank you so much for letting me know, Lisa. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's always best. Otherwise, people then will be asking more questions. Thank you.
That's good because, my first language is Danish. So I always feel like I speak very slowly when
You do, and it's perfect. Thank you.
so I always try to speed it up, not to be too boring. So
No,
yeah, okay.
thank
But
you.
just let me know if it's too fast or if you want to change anything. So let's get started. Yeah. And I need to share. This one. Yeah. Can you see my screen? Oh, this is the wrong one. I'm bring it over here. Is that, are you seeing what you're supposed to see?
Yes,
Yep, we can see that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so thank you so much for inviting me, especially Olga, who I spoke with a couple of times. It's a big honor to meet a new community, which it is for me. The only one I've been in touch with is Kelly from Sticktin App, which I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple of times. So let's get on with it. And I got a lot of ideas to this presentation. I cannot cover it all, but I've tried to pick some things that I hope can be useful for most of you. So let's see how it works. So the first thing I think we need to think about when we talk about training is, why should we train our animals? And I have a video here that I would like to share. It's not nice, but this is the fact that if we have animals that are not trained, this is what we need to do if we have to anesthetize them, which we often have to for different reasons. In this case, it's a chimpanzee that needs to go to the dentist and it has some teeth issues. And this is how we would normally do. And at the end of the video, you will see how it looks when the animal has been trained for the procedure of being anesthetized.
sikker. Dygtig skat. Så, nå stod den. Du er så dygtig skat.
So I think it explains the importance of training better in this 1.5 minutes that I could have spent an hour explaining to you. So this is what we need to keep in mind and why this training is so important. So how do we get started with our training? I'm gonna share with you some of the ways that we use. I'm gonna share with you some foundation behaviors that I think is really important to teach most animals, how to get a behavior using the environment and how we can set up the occasion to let the behavior happen as easy as possible so we don't spend too much time and too much staff on it. And then a little bit of introduction on how to approach fear and aggression, because those are also emotions that we often see in our animals in human care. So foundation behaviors is a good place to start. It actually covers the foundation of almost any daily management and medical training that we wish to do with our animals. It applies to almost all animals, and it's very important that it has to be solid. All these foundation behaviors have to be solid before we start using them and building on them for more advanced behaviors. But you will be surprised to see how much just knowing these foundation behaviors, how much you can use them for different purposes. You actually don't have to teach your animals more than that. So they have a great potential as they are, as the foundation behaviors. So the first one I'm going to talk about is contact. And that means, we want an animal to stay calm, and we could say we want them to do nothing. And that's really important because we want animals to be attentive and aware of us and have good contact with us when we ask them to do something. That makes everything much easier. It also can help keep a training session, the speed of the training session down, because the animal doesn't feel like it has to present a behavior all the time, show a hand, turn its back, lay down, stand up, in order to get what they are working for, whatever reinforcement we have to offer. So it just teaches them to stay calm and wait. I like it to be the first behavior that the animal learns, because then it would automatically be the behavior with the longest reinforcement history. And also it would be the behavior that the animal tend to turn to if it kind of miss a cue or gets confused or are not really sure what to do. Well, they can always stay calm and hope to get reinforced for that, which I would always reinforce. It also teaches the animal to stay calm when you want to deliver a reinforcer. So instead of trying to grab it out of your hands or grab it from the bucket, the whole session is just going to be more calm. The only thing you have to be aware of is you don't want to see a freeze behavior, because if you teach your animals to not move, you will get an animal looking like this instead of an animal looking like this. So we want the more calm behavior. Can you teach like eye contact with some animals? Like this baboon, if you ever worked with baboons, you know how fast they react to eye contact. They don't like it. They see it as a threat. They start to use their own threat behavior of, opening or lifting their eyebrows so their eyes become all white and look very scary. So it's hard not to look at a baboon if you want to train it. So this is why we started out teaching the baboon that, we can look at each other and it's no big deal. We're not a threat. We're not trying to stare you down or anything like that. And here's what it looked like. And that could also sometimes be the case with some carnivores, I assume. So he knows exactly, look at the keeper and I get my reinforcer. But it doesn't have to be just eye contact. It can just be also just relax and you you get whatever you want, you work for. Often it's food, but like in this case with this horse, this is how we start out our horse training. We simply teach them to just stay where you are. You don't have to try to put your mouth in the treat bag that we have around our waist. If you just stay where you are, keep the head down, the reinforcer will come to you instead of you having to grab for it. So that's a very nice information to teach your horse, because otherwise horses can be pretty pushy to get whatever they want. We have to remember that it's not a natural behavior for animals to sit and wait to get what they want. Often in the wild, they would have to fight for it or grab it before other animals get to it. So it's a shaped behavior, and we have to shape the behavior as you saw here before. What's important, and I have some example here with our giant panda at the zoo. Be careful you don't create an unwanted behavior when you ask for contact, or just relax and just wait. Because if you do too much duration, the animal may be impatient and start to move around and offer behavior, and then you start to get maybe aggression, you start to get repetitive behavior and behavior that you don't want. And here's a very good example with our giant panda, our female. We were about to teach her this behavior of biting over 2 sticks to do some gum swabs and teeth checks, behavior that we learned from Barbara Heidenreich, who has the Animal Training Fundamentals. We did, I'm going to talk about it later, but we did a free course about the COVID tests during COVID. And we wanted to do that with the female panda, but she was used to get fed all the time during a training session. She was not taught to be calm and wait for us to ask us to do something. So it went well with the male, but when we wanted to train the female for it, she started moving around even while she was still chewing her apple, and this is how it looked. I can turn down my voice, as it's in Danish, so it doesn't matter. But so as you can see, while she's still chewing, she starts moving around to get the next piece, because this is how she was trained when we got her food constantly while she was working. And you can see how she starts to go out on what we call the extinction curve. She starts to offer more and more behavior instead of staying calm. And the more we wait, the worse it gets, the more behavior she starts to show. The keeper here thought that she was calm for just a split second, but it was not something that the panda understood. And as you can see here now, she tries to grab the keeper. She starts to move around more and more, and she even starts to stand up, and this is gonna go all the wrong way. So this was not good. And one thing I always say is you have to know your animal. And one of the things we know about giant pandas is they're very scent oriented. New scents in their environment means a lot to them. They're very interested in new scents. So what we came up with was, let the trainer exhale his breath towards the panda, not blowing at her, because no animals like that, but just exhale. So his breath, which was a new scent, well, we can discuss whether it's nice or not, but for the panda, it was interesting, and this is how it looked. So now he just exhaled a little bit. And as you saw, she just stopped for a minute to take in that smell. And he could reinforce that little pause she made there. And now we had something to work on. And after a couple of sessions, you can see how good she was at it. She could actually wait for a very long time. And today it's her favorite behavior. She loves to just stare at her trainer. and wait for her apple while she's doing it. So now we have a much more relaxed animal that is much easier to work with. So as you can see, it teaches the animal to stay calm and attentive and not show aggressive attitude. Even if it fails to show a correct behavior, it learns I can just relax and then I get reinforced for that. And it also helps you detect early and very small precursors of aggression, because when everything is going slower, it's easier to see the smallest kind of body language that shows that you are maybe on the wrong way. And of course, you should always ensure that your animal are not too hungry before a training session, because that can make them too frustrated and too hard to work with. So we never, ever deprive our animals food before we train them. That would be really stupid. The next foundation behavior is station. And a station is simply a location where the animal can wait while it still does something. It knows that if I just stay here, I will get my reinforcer. So it's a place also where the animal can return to. I just have a picture here that instead of if an animal didn't have a station, you can end up have the animal here trying to get attention from its trainer. But it can also be a place for an animal to return to if it's called back by the trainer, or if it's did a behavior like this sea lion here out in the water, and you whistle and tells the animal that was perfect. Now I want you to come back and get your reinforcer. So remember, the click or the whistle, which we're not going to talk about today, it does not end the behavior, but it's also an information to the animal on where do I need to go to get my reinforcer, what I just worked for. It can also be a place to park your animal. When you have to remove your attention to the animal, it can be because you want to work with another animal in the environment, but it can also be because you want to open or close doors, or shift other animals back and forth. And in this case, we used it in our education settings, where we want to show the children here how these chickens could fly from one station to another station. So this is how we used it. But a station can actually be used for a lot of things, and it can serve a lot of purposes. Like we have here our little mouse deer. She learned to, or all our mouse deers learned to stand on this green piece of carpet. And here you can see she's standing on her station. We can then put the blanket or the carpet on a scale and weigh the animal. Or we can even put it into a crate and teach them to go inside a crate. This is very important for these animals, as they easily stress and they can actually be fatal if you try to catch them by net. It can also be used for health checks, like stationing animals in positions to have x-rays, but also a lot of birds has a disease called bumblefoot, and the only way you can check that is to turn the bird upside down and look underneath their feet. So instead, you can create this acrylic box with a mirror underneath, and you can actually just ask your birds to stand up on this acrylic box. And as you can see, if you look in the mirror, you can see their feet underneath, and then the trainer can check the bird's feet every single day if he wants to. So this is also a way. When you train a station behavior, you have to know your animal. I mean, some animals feel safe in the water. So if I was training a sea lion and I wanted to do something that could be scary to the animal, or potentially create a fear response at some point, I would make sure that the animal was in the most safe position as possible. So if it was possible, I would train my sea lion in the water, because I know then they can get away fast, and that's their element, where they feel safe. Again, if you work with primates, especially smaller primates, if I wanted to put them on a scale, on a station, wherever, I would try to put it up like you see here in this picture, where he puts it up on over his head, so the primates are over his head, so they can run away up in the trees if they want to, and don't have to go underneath our head. If you work with a cats also feel safer if they run up a tree, especially small cats. If it's a fox, it may be the other way around, that they want to go underground. So they may not be so happy about stepping up on boxes. I have experience working with Arctic foxes, and we spend more time getting on top of a box than we would normally do with a cat. And just a little tip here is that the animals always orient themselves towards the direction where the reinforcer comes from. Not that you should lure your animal to step up to a scale, but if the animal like this capybara comes close to the scale here, feed from the opposite side, just reach in over the platform and feed the animal, and the animal would automatically orient themselves in the direction where the food comes from. Not that you should hold it here and just expect the animal to come closer, but just feed all the way over here. It's a bit of a technique thing. You can also, of course, you should avoid stations where the animals could get injured, like having claws getting stuck. If you use some kind of mesh, be careful that they don't get injured. I have an example here with a cat that it's a caracal, has not been trained for a scale, and you can see an example of how difficult it is to get it on this scale, because the scale is a bit too small, and it's easier for the cat to just put 3 feet on the scale. But if you make a little bit of adjustment, you actually get the behavior much faster. And this is some of the things we should always work on. As you can see, if we lift it up a bit, we even get the tail included in the weight. But you can see how fast it was just to put a box underneath, and how fast it was for the cat to understand that it had to get up in this box. So we have to be creative sometimes when we create training stations for training. So with pigs, it can be very difficult for pigs to hand feed a pig without getting your fingers stuck in the teeth, and also too, if you have more pigs next to each other, it's often that they start fighting over food or try to steal from each other. Or if you want to feed one pig, it can be hard not to get bitten by some of the others, or maybe the pig you try to feed. So we came up with this solution. It was just a PVC pipe, and pigs has this natural behavior of freezing. So as you can see, Sinam is almost frozen there. And we could do some injection training while she was stationing in there. And we could feed through this hole, so we didn't get, bitten by accident. Not that she wanted to, but it could happen. And you can see how easy we could work with injection training with her. The other thing, the little shelf here, is something we built for our meerkats. We had 4 meerkats at that time, and we didn't have much space, so we wanted them to be close together. But again, we had this problem of not stealing from each other, so we built this shelf. So it looked like this. They could just sit next to each other. The trainer could just feed in the big, small compartments that they had. And she could just move this cage around, or she could move a scale around, so she could work with each of the animals while the other ones were stationed in their little room. But then we got 10 meerkats, and then what? So then we started coming up with this And this is actually a very early video of it, because today they simply come in, they find their spot, they go in there and just sit there for the whole training session. And the place we are right now is that we are teaching them to have a lid over at the end, so we can take out this acrylic tube with the meerkat. We can scan their chip because it's plastic. We can put them on a scale. We can take them to the veterinarian to anesthetize them using gas by putting them in another acrylic airtight compartment where we can use gas to anesthetize them. So there's a lot of potential in that one. And the last example I will show you is an example where we had to check a mouse deer, a young mouse deer. We needed to know what sex it was because it had to go on the surplus list. Again, we had to look underneath this meerkat, not meerkat, mouse deer. So this is what we came up with. She was station trained, as you saw on the earlier videos. So we simply cut out a square in the station, put down a GoPro camera, cut a hole in the mat, and this is what it looked like. So we just fed her on the station, tried to move her around, and here you can see it's a little female. So we didn't have to catch her, we could simply just show the video to our veterinarians. They said, yes, this is a female, we don't have to grab her. And then we could train her to be taken away. So the last thing, or not the next last thing I will talk about is target training. And target can be used for so many things. It can be used for starting a training session. It can be used to move animals around, to station animals, to present body parts, to communicate with animals. Like you see the sea lion here, she learned that she could put her nose on this little orange ball, and the keeper could then do a body checkup. But if she at some point didn't want to participate anymore, she could just move her head away, and the trainer would take her hands away. And if she wanted to go on, she could put her head down. But if she didn't, we just did something else and just reinforced her calm behavior. It can also be used to redirect behavior. And in this case, I'm going to show you, because I tried to put in or present as many species, training with as many species as possible. So here is a monitor lizard that we had. She was very eager when the trainer came to get her grasshoppers. So she was so ready and very fast. And here you can see how she's at the door immediately. And there was also a problem when we had temporary staff coming in and do the cleaning, that it was hard not to let the monitor lizard out, as you can see here. So we put in a plastic tube, and she knew her target. So we simply put the target through the plastic tube, taught her to look for the target over here. As you can see, she's very fast. And she ran over in the corner to the target. They react a lot to movement. So the trainer could then open the door here and put in the crate. He already had a target ready inside the crate, the acrylic crate here. And he could then get her to go inside the crate and do whatever he needed to do. We have trained for injections. We have taken the monitor lizard to the veterinarian to have X-rays, and we can also anesthetize if we needed to do that. So what can be a target? A target can be a lot of things. It doesn't have to be a ball and a stick or some tape at the end of the stick. It can also just be your hand, a closed hand or open hand. Of course, you need to be safe and sure that the animal will not bite you. It can also be different targets for different body parts. Like with our tiger here, we use an orange ball for the paw and a white ball for the nose. And it can be laser pointers like we did with this crocodile. Crocodile reacts to movement. So even though we threw fish in there, it didn't react to it because they were laying still. But as soon as we used the laser pointer, she would move towards this spot moving, and we could direct her around. And we actually trained her from outside the enclosure because we had no possibility of being in there with her. So we could train her in a crate so we can come inside and be safe. So things that are important to consider when we talk about targets is, of course, the size and the shape and how the animal sees it. When we work in protected contact, as you see here in this picture, which is our polar bear setup, at the top picture, you see a nice white ball on a stick, which is very visible for us. And the other one is just a stick with some black tape on it. But what we need to remember is the animals on the other side of the fence, how do they see this target that we're presenting? And if we look from their side, this stick with the black tape around this is actually easier to see. So when we teach a target, it's important to know different things or be aware of different things. So one of them is like, how do your animals see? Do they have like the horse here? Do they have a blind spot? Because prey animals often have a very wide vision. They see to all sides where carnivores look more straight ahead. So have this in your mind when you present your target or when you create your target. And also think about what the exploratory behavior of this animal is. So if you, for example, have a lemur, you can expect them to reach out and touch the target with their hands, while a giraffe or a tiger may want to touch it with their nose because they sniff things, they smell things before they touch them instead. So when you want to present your targets, present it slow and maybe on a distance. I'm just going to read this because I have a video that shows it very well, I think. Present the target in short intervals followed by the treat. Reinforce the behavior of orienting towards it. It doesn't have to touch it, but just, they are aware of it and go like, I wonder what that is. Reinforce that behavior. That is the first steps towards touching or coming close to the target. Feet next to the target to create a kind of reinforcement value for this target. The animal knows, okay, something good is happening in this area. Remove it. Wait a second before you present it again. Wait till the animal finishes chewing or eating whatever you gave it, and then present it again. And present the target then farther away from the animal, so you ask the animal to move even more towards the target from a further distance. And make sure the animal is aiming for the target when you reinforce and not something else. And you can see this in the video. And sometimes with some animals, holding a target still does not create any interest, but then if you move it a little, they go like, oh, what was that? And then you can reinforce that behavior. So let's have a look at this leopard. This is the very, very first time this leopard sees this target. So she presented, he looks at it, sniffs a bit, but doesn't move closer, but that's okay. We can see that there's an interest. So immediately she feeds. Then she removes the target and then she tries again. Now you can see already on the second presentations go like, this is interesting. And now she forgets to move it away, but it's okay. He is moving really fast towards it and are very curious. And here she switched to luring because here she actually just gotta take some sound out. As you could see, she held up the food before the animal gave the behavior, and that is actually switching to luring. So she should wait for the animal to do the behavior and then reinforce. So we just wait here and see, do you understand that you should come from a further distance? And actually he did. This is you have to remember, this is the very first session where he sees the target. He has never ever seen the target before. And you have to be aware that the animal can actually see the target. So is this feeding hole, is that blocking so he cannot see it? It immediately helped when she moved it underneath so he could see it from the spot that he was. So the next step should be go to the target, I remove the target, and then I feed. So it gets the idea that I have to go there and then reinforcement will happen at some point. And the next step should then be follow the target. So now the leopard is following the target, laying down, and now we actually have the leopard in position for injection training. And it didn't take more than 3 sessions, I think. Well, sometimes it's important when you do the target training of the first times and the animal hasn't seen it before, they don't know what they have to do with it. And then it can be an advantage not to show them the food. Here's an example with a red panda. The trainer shows the target, the panda goes over to see what that is and gets a grape. But now the panda sees the grapes in the bucket in front of the trainer and goes like, why should I go there when the grapes are down there? So I ask her, please move it away so she can't see it. And as soon as she couldn't see the grapes anymore, she went straight to the target. So it can be distracting when they can see the treats. So the last foundation behavior is an A to B, and it's used for a lot of things. It can be used to move animals. It can be used to exercise animals. It can be used to crate train. What I mean is you move your animal from one spot to another spot. And sometimes it can be good to teach the animal to move away from a trainer, maybe to go inside a crate or into a chute. So they understand that I don't have to stay with the trainer all the time to get the treat. I can also go other places and then get whatever I want to work for. So they learn to associate a specific event, like maybe a feeding time. And I have an example here with a cute example with some rabbits from the zoos. They have learned then when they hear the keys from the keeper in the morning, they know that the keeper will come and feed them pellets inside the house. And that actually created a very nice recall behavior for our 23 rabbits that we had at that time. Much easier and a happy keeper here. So that was what I'm going to say about that. And we talked about getting the behavior and how can we set up the environment? How can we arrange the environment to get the behavior we want? And I talked about with the COVID test, with biting over the bars, we also did it with a tiger where we put up this plastic tube so they could look inside, put their head in there. We kind of knew where the head was so we can do a nose swab, and it looked like this. So now we just fed the tiger in there and we could do this nose swab, and it didn't really bother her, but we could then see if she was infected with COVID. And I just want to say we have a whole free training course on animal training fundamentals. You can go in and you can just see it whenever you feel like it, it's still there. So we just kept it in there. When we talk about injections, what we often do, oh no, I want to show you something else. I want to show you how we did it with a monitor lizard, because we also wanted to do an open mouth behavior with a monitor lizard. And how can you really teach a monitor lizard to do that? So I just want to show you how creative the keepers were. So we made like the tiger, this little cup they could put the head in there. And then we
Fordi
taught the monitor lizard
det skal bare være sådan, at munden er helt åben.
to bite over this
Fordi det
yellow
er
tape.
hvis han kun gør det med spidsen. Sådan.
And when she became really good at that, we took a thicker tube that we could drill a hole and put in an inspection camera. And then he could bite over that. And when he did that, we could record from the camera what we saw inside the mouth of this monitor lizard. And you can see this is what it looked like. So we got a very nice picture of how the monitor lizard looked inside the mouth. And we could even see eyes and nostrils too. So setting up the environment, when we inject our lions or tigers and big cats, we often put down some kind of barrier along the fence. So, and it looks like this, like in this case, it's a lock that we put in there. And you can see the setup here. And what we would normally do is we have target trained the lion as we saw with the leopard. And we simply put them down here along the fence, and then we could start working, injecting on their hips. But then we had these young lions, and they soon found out that they can just put their butt on top of on top of the lock. And we didn't want them to lay like that. So we came up with the idea of using these cargo barrier things that you use in trucks to keep cargo in place in trucks. So you have to be, again, creative, and you can see how solid they stand in the specific position. And we bought 2 of those. You can see them here in the picture, how they're used inside a truck. And we bought 2 of those so we can add them into the stable. And here's one of our young lions that we trained for injection that we were going to move. Actually, we moved 3 young lions that day. Just injecting them like this, and you can see how easy it is done because they immediately lay in the position, so we don't have to train them for lean-in. They just ended up there as easy as nothing. And then we had another setup here. I can just start playing it to save time. So we had 2 species of tamarins in one enclosure. We had some pygmy marmosets and we had some emperor tamarins. And this is our back area set up. As you can see, we placed the back cages very high, and that was because it was safer for them to get in the back area from a high point in their enclosure. So they had a little hole in their enclosure high up in the trees. They came through and into these smaller cages that we placed high up. And as you can see here, the pygmy marmosets are allowed inside now. And she put up a chip reader in front of this plastic fence. And we cut out the bars because you cannot read chips through metal mesh. By putting up an acrylic piece or plastic piece, she could read the chip number while she was weighing the pygmy marmoset, and so she knew which one she was weighing at that time. And here you can see how it looked on the inside. She had a shelf all the way over, so she could just move them around by feeding them. So it's a lot about staying safe, and in this case, it was the animal that needed to stay safe. In the pictures with the tiger, you see an example of having a sleeve and not having a sleeve. I can, under no circumstances, suggest that you should not use a sleeve. The little picture there is really, really dangerous, and you should always use sleeves for these carnivores because they're fast and they reach out much further than you expect. So I also have an example with the camel. She's a young camel, and she became a bit too pushy, or she was a bit too pushy, simply because she was eager. She was too big to start training in this unsafe environment, and this is how it looked when the keeper started trying to start training her. It was simply not safe, and we had to come up with another situation. So the solution we came up with was simply just a rope, and we taught her to stay on a mat. So she always knew that, if I get confused, or I don't know what to do, or I want something, I want my reinforcer now, she could always go to the mat and get it. And that is actually what we talk about today as a degree of freedom, a way of getting different ways to earn their reinforcers, and not just the way that the person to do what the person tells them to do, but they can always go to the mat and get exactly the same. And just an example here on setting up the whole behavior in one go, and don't have to do anything. This is a very creative setup. How do you get a urine sample from a tiger? And in this case, we simply put some straw. And again, it's about knowing your animal. Put some straw on the floor here. You put in some kind of scent, and in this case, it wasn't any scent, because we had a very critical tiger that he wanted to have something really special. And as you can see here, he went straight in to the inside next to where he was, and he went straight to the scent, and he sat down to pee. And yeah, well, you have to be aware that tigers, they tend to do a bit of spraying just before they sit down and pee, so you have to be fast and avoid that. But as soon as he sprayed one time, he was just gonna sit down and pee, so we can collect it using a small bowl here and collect it in here. And it was pretty easy. We have a lot of tiger pee. And why did we collect it? It was because there was a researcher at the university who was doing a study on presenting pee from different male tigers to female tigers, to kind of find out which one of the males she would prefer. And then you could actually eventually make sure to move the right male to the right female and have a bigger chance of success. So that is actually what the whole idea was about. Now I can see that I have been talking for 46 minutes. I will try to go over the last thing really fast, but I will have to go over time, and maybe I should just quickly ask David or Olga if that is okay, or if I should save it for another time.
No, please keep going. And if there's any questions that we can't get to at the end, we can always find a way to maybe get those to you remotely or something like that. But I think if you've got more that you can share with us, that's the best use of the time we have.
Okay, so I will do this hopefully fast. 10 minutes or so, I think. The next thing, I just need to thank these people for using this procedure. Israel Gold Diamond, TV Joe Lang, Paul Andronis, Jesus Rosales Rees, and Barbara Heidenreich, because those are the people that came up with these procedures and tested them, and the reason why I can use it in my training today. So I just think it's important to give credits to your teachers. That's very important to me. So it's about addressing fear and aggression, and what we call a bit of a constructional approach to problem behavior, and hopefully we will get time to talk about that in another time. But what's important when we start working with our animals is, what do our animals actually, what do their body language actually tell us? And if we look at this tiger, here's the trainer come and give food. And this is what we often see, or could often see with big cats when we start training them. And what we see here is we see an animal that really wants the food, but he definitely do not want the person to be in there. And this is what we call conflicted behavior. He shows a kind of, we don't know if it's actually fear or aggression, but it doesn't really matter because it has the same outcome. It is distance. We tend to define fear as an animal that wants to get away from something, and aggression as an animal that wants to drive something away. But in both cases, we talk about distance. The animal wants distance. And when we use a constructional approach, what's important for us is not to ignore that the animal wants this distance, but we want to maintain this consequence. We know it's important for this animal to have this consequence, which is distance. So how do we give the animal what it wants? We simply shape another behavior, a less costly behavior that the animal can show and get the same outcome. And then over time, when the animal are relaxed, we can shift to positive reinforcement using food. And this is what it looked like when we had a trainer at the zoo, that we had a tiger that didn't like a certain person. And unfortunately, this person was one of the team members of the carnivore team, and this tiger just didn't like him. And as you will see, he doesn't mind the person sitting in front of him, feeding him. No problem here. He's just staring at the person standing in the back. He does not want him to be close. And here he tries to give him food, but he simply refuses the food. He just wants that person to go away. So even though he accepted food from one person, didn't mean that he wanted to accept food from another person. So what did we do? We did what's called a negative reinforcement procedure. We simply moved Holger to a point where the tiger could still stay calm, and then we removed him again. And this is what it looks like. A bit of Holger, this tiger stayed calm, it just stared at him, no growling, and we moved him away. Then we moved him close again. The tiger was just staring. We moved him away again. So we taught the tiger, you just have to stare at him, and then he will walk away. You don't have to growl. You don't have to jump the fence. And over time, the tiger started to lick its paw, look away, and we reinforced that by moving Holger, which was the name of this keeper, away. The other guy was sitting on the floor feeding the tiger, but that had nothing to do with what's going on in the back. That was simply to make the tiger successful in staying in this position. Otherwise, he could just get up and go away, because we always kept all the doors open so he could leave anytime he wanted to. And after 42 minutes in total over 8 sessions, we had this result today. This is the same trainer that this tiger didn't like. Now he's doing guest encounters, showing behaviors with the tiger. He does medical behaviors, like in this case, it's an anesthetizing, where he had to have his tooth checked. As you can see, he's just feeding the tiger while the other keeper is doing the injection. And he finished the session, and when you look at the tiger's face, he's just totally calm and absolutely no aggression is showed. It's just to show you how important it is to give them the consequence, to maintain the consequence of the behavior, of the problem behavior that the animal shows. And we can talk a lot about that, but we will not have time today. I just want to show you one more example. This is a muskox, and she's very aggressive towards the staff. As you can see here, this person really tried to be friendly with her, tried to feed her carrots, but the muskox just wanted one thing, and that was for her to go away. And she didn't even care about the carrots. She didn't want to eat them. She just kept attacking the fence until the keeper was gone away. So we did exactly the same as you just saw with the tiger here.
Not so fast.
She approached the muskox,
Stop.
and while the muskox was just looking at her, she moved away. So now we taught it that you don't have to attack the fence. You can just look at me and I'll leave. You don't have to go into that as high energy behavior. And look at this muskox. Look at how her behavior changed from just looking at the keeper to actually starting to approach the fence in a more friendly way, could we say, a more inviting way, keeping her head up instead of taking the head down and show precursors to aggression. So here you can see, now she moves forward with head up instead of head down, like, what are you doing? I'm interested. You can come closer to the fence. And I think we spent in total about 40 minutes on this session, and she was able to actually approach so close to the fence without being attacked that she could throw in underneath the fence here. She could throw in some carrots, slowly, not to create any sudden
Throw
movement,
if you can from there.
to get some aggression. And as you can see, the muskox calmly went over and started
Some
eating
bigger pieces.
eating the carrots.
You need some that are more heavy.
And after doing this a couple of times, this is where she is today. She can hand feed this muskox. And the most amazing thing was that this muskox actually generalized it to all people in one go. So even I could feed it carrots when she didn't know me at all. So even strangers could come up and work with her from that day on, which I think shows how efficient this procedure is. So here's the shaping process in a step-by-step. So you can take a picture of it, or maybe you get a chance to see the presentation again. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just quick sum up of what you've just seen in the videos, but start far away where the animal can still remain calm. Present the unwanted object or person, whatever it is, far enough away where the animal does not show any fear or aggressive response. Move the unwanted person or object closer until you see a very little reaction, or preferably no reaction, because even though we don't see any reaction, we know that there's still things going on inside the animals that we just can't see on the outside yet, but we will be able to see it on the outside if we move too close too soon, or if we stay too long. Stop for a second and then move away. So reinforce by distance, and aim for no reaction, or maybe a reaction that you want to reinforce, maybe an animal that look away, yawning, licking a paw, just attending to other things and showing some kind of calm behavior. Teach the animal that it can make the unwanted thing go away by presenting a calm body language or some other wanted behavior. So now it doesn't have to go into that aggressive state to make things go away. It can just relax and the things go away. Then you repeat the behavior of going forward or moving the object forward in very small steps, or you can work on one criteria at the time. Either you move closer or you stay at the same spot but for a longer time. So you kind of increase the steps. Shift to positive reinforcement when the animal offers the opportunity, like you saw with the muskox. She actually offered the option of getting closer, but at the same time, you still maintain the distance procedure. So you just do like you saw with the muskox, give the food and move away. You just don't stand there, but keep doing the negative reinforcement procedure at the same time as you do the positive reinforcement before you shift over. And it's actually a known phenomenon that you call the switch over. You see it and it looks like magic, like when we saw it with the tiger. So using distance as a reinforcement is a new tool to increase the quality and efficiency in our training, and thereby also increase the welfare of the animals. It's a very, very powerful tool that we started use only a few years ago, and it's way better than the previous procedures that we historically tend to use. So we use it when animals show fear and aggression, when animals doesn't want to take any food from us, when the function of their behavior is distance. We use distance as when we use distance as a reinforcer, it can be efficient and produce results in a very short time, and thereby provide better welfare for our animals. And it leads to use of positive reinforcement without deprivation of force. And I have some resources for you, but I think instead of showing them here, I will just send them to Olga, and maybe she can share them with you at some point. So we hopefully will have time for some questions. So thank you, and sorry it went over time, but
No, that's great. Thanks, Annette. That's really great. Just to let you know, Olga's been called away to an unscheduled but urgent call at 12, so she's had to go and send her apologies. But thanks you for everything so far. I mean, I found that fascinating. I mean, for me, it's obvious that there's a huge amount of science underpinning all of this, but there's also a lot of art there as well and creativity that goes alongside that.
Yeah, I like the way you say art. Yeah, it is art. It is. It's a skill. We have to remember that.
Yeah. So do you have time for some questions or?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry, right. Okay, that's
I'm
great.
sorry,
Sorry,
I was over.
I misunderstood. I thought you said that you had to go on time.
No, no.
Well, we have a question here that's in the chat, and then I'll open it up if anyone has any that they'd like to ask in person. Unless Patrick and Leah, you wanted to open your mics and ask in person about that particular issue you've raised in the chat.
Hi.
Hi there.
Yeah, maybe it's better if we say it in person. We are working with birds of prey.
Lucas, wil je heel even
And we also have ravens, 2 ravens, and they are very quick, very fast, and we have many trainers. We also work with volunteers. So they have been taught, well, they have been having a lot of success with stealing food, but also the male chasing the female away. So now we're having a situation that, well, for our experienced keepers, it's good to do. It's good to be aware of that, but with less experienced trainer, yeah, well, you know what can happen. They get reinforced again, so it goes away and it comes back all the time. So
yeah,
we use stations, and now we have the stations further away. We have some visual barriers. Yeah, I was wondering, what are your thoughts on that? And is there something you could help us with to be more successful with them? Training without stealing or the male chasing the female away.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to give advices because I cannot see the environment, and I
know.
To me it sounds like you have done all the things I would do, like create stations and put in visual barriers. The biggest problem in this case is probably that it's get reinforced now and then, because that's, as you, I think because I know you've done a lot of training. As you know, it's an immediate schedules of reinforcement, and that is really hard to extinguish. Do you have to work them in the same room?
No, we can separate them, yes.
yeah, maybe I would do that at least for some time, to kind of, yeah, maybe if he steals food, is it because you give bigger pieces of food that they cannot eat immediately? Or how do you feed them? Because do you have a way of feeding them so they can eat it immediately, so
Yes.
it's harder for him to come and steal from her?
We feed them by hand
Yeah.
or from the glove. And they're small pieces, very small. Also because they become satiated if we give too big a pieces. But we have also different kind of food, so maybe they have preference. So I was thinking maybe train the animals with less value reinforcement, so they don't want to steal. But no, that doesn't work either. They just want to steal. They just want to take it. So
Yeah.
I was thinking in that too, maybe change something with the reinforcement, the way of reinforcement.
Yeah, I mean, there could be different reasons for why the behavior is reinforced. I mean, it can also be, yeah, a behavior that is interesting to do for him. Maybe it's maybe he needs to do something, um, I don't know, something that is a higher value of interest of a behavior to do.
Yeah.
Something more interesting, like, when animals learn new things, they're often much more engaged than, if things gets too boring, they kind of find out some things that they can do instead. So I don't know how that is. I
Yeah, I've been doing that with him as well, and then he's not stealing. So, but we also
Okay.
give sometimes we give them chicks, and when they are in the aviary, then he will chase the female until she lets go of the chick. But ravens, they also how do you say it? Put food away for a later time. So
Yeah, they hide. Yeah, they
hide
cache,
the
I think
food.
it's called.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's
Sorry, we'll have to stop there because we've got a couple of other questions
yes.
I've got to do in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
I've got one here from Sabrina that asks, do you have any tips for ending training sessions so the animal knows it's over and is not getting frustrated and end it in a rewarding way?
Yes, absolutely. I just want to say to Leah, you can get my email address and then contact me. Then I can find some help for you. Yeah, because I want to get more information for you.
That's
Yeah,
great. I didn't want to offer that on your behalf, Annette, but if that's possible, that would be
yeah.
fantastic.
Please share my email. That's perfect.
Okay,
Or
great.
get it from Kelly because she knows my email also.
I'll be sharing the recording of this and I'll share your email address there as well.
And also
Dave, sorry.
and also the resources I had for you. Please share them too. Yeah,
Can I just ask one? Can we ask one question very, very quickly, or
But
not?
yeah, just if Annette can just answer Sabrina as quickly that
Yeah,
I've just
sure, of
mentioned there.
course. Yeah, sorry, Dave.
I
Yeah.
will stay here as long as you will stay here, so no worries.
Fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. Ending a session is really important. The way we always do it, I think with all animals at the zoo, I cannot think of one where we do not do it, is we often have some kind of signal, even though you think you don't have, you always have a signal that shows the animal that now the session is finished. Either by, you collect all your stuff, or you start to take down the inventory or whatever you use, your targets or whatever. So the animal will always know when a session is finished. And what we always do with any one of our animals, either we give them some food on the floor, some scatter feeding, or with our big carnivores, we use a bigger piece of bone or something that we give them that they can take, and then they go away, and then we leave. It can also be like a piece of skin. So if you don't want to add more calories, to the animal's diet. Use some skin from a cow or horse or whatever you feed with. With the chimpanzees, we have them in the big group. We never separate them for training, so there could be a potential of stealing. But what's funny is that we use these paper bags with something nice in there, a couple of nuts, some figs, maybe half an apple. And then when we're done with the training session, we give them a little paper bag with this inside that they don't know what is. They take the paper bag, they go somewhere, and then they sit and eat it, and nobody steals from each other for some reason. I really don't know why. It can be enrichment. We give them some enrichment they can play with or engage with when we leave. So we don't just leave them there looking at us and turn our backs and go away. We never do that, because that can potentially create some frustration from the animal, because they might not think that the training session should be finished now. So we give them something else.
That's great. I've got a question here from Lindsay saying, can we find out where to get the injection in a stick that was on one of the videos? And also, please, more videos on injection training for primates. But might be something that maybe, Annette, you can send on any links that I could include in the video. I could send directly to Lindsay as well, actually.
I would love to, but actually I invented that myself. So I make them myself. I make them out of some electrician pipe and a double stick, and cut some slices in there so it fits a syringe. But I should have them made somewhere, because I keep getting asked about it. So at some point, yeah, I would love to. I have a video that shows a close up on how it works and how I made it. So
Okay.
I'm happy to share that, because it's good for our animals, because you cannot put your fingers through the bar. But it gives us, even though the tiger may move a little bit away, we can still reach in and do the injection. So that's why we made it, simply for safety reasons.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Yeah, definitely. I think you could probably patent that invention.
I think so.
Are there any other questions?
Sorry, Dave, because we're in
Sorry,
four.
Lisa, yeah.
I'll just coordinate. First of all, we wanted to thank you, because it's been so interesting. We would have listened for another hour to everything that you said. Thank you very much. What was your
Thank
question,
you.
Lara?
Sì, no,
Okay.
yeah. Allora, non bisogna mai fare il training quando l'animale ha troppa fame.
Allora, ok.
Nel caso dei felidi,
Ok.
felidi, quanto tempo dopo il pasto
Okay.
serale?
Previously, you said you should never do training for an animal if they're very hungry. For big cats, what sort of timing, how much time before should they have received food before you do the training? Because we deal with a lot of big cats.
Una volta al giorno e la sera.
So that, and our big cats eat once a day in the evening. So if we wanted to do training, what would be the ideal time?
I mean,
Morning, probably.
we often feed our cats just before training, which sounds weird, but actually we don't want hungry cats when we work with them,
Okay.
because they will almost always eat a nice snack.
Yeah.
No matter how hungry, how full they are. So sometimes when you have a cat that is like, oh, I want food, we feed them 3 or 4 kilos of
Yeah,
food.
same.
And then we go in and then we train with them like half an hour later. And then
Okay.
we have this animal that just eats snacks. I mean, we can eat a lot of food, and we still eat chocolate, and so will animals.
Okay, thank you. That's really useful. Thank you very much. So after. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one more question.
Ho visto che a volte utilizzava il target, no? E alle volte utilizzava il clicker.
Yeah.
Con i felidi consiglia sempre il target o anche l'utilizzo uditivo del clicker?
Okay, we noticed that Lara, our biologist, noticed that sometimes a target was used or a clicker was used. So obviously a noise. For big cats, what would you suggest would be better? A target or a clicker, like a noise?
Oh, it's actually 2 different things. The target serves the point of positioning the animal or asking to to reach the paw out through a sleeve or whatever.
Okay.
But the clicker, it marks the time, we call it a bridge. It marks the time where the animal does what we want them to.
Okay.
And then it kind of creates a bridge between perfect behavior and now the food is coming, because there will always be a time difference. But
Okay.
I would say, like you saw with the leopard that learned the target stick,
Yeah.
he did not use a clicker. I
No.
mean, I would not use a clicker because I can reinforce next to the target. I don't need that bridge because I can feed exactly when the animal does when I want it to.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. Yeah, I'll translate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
And then I can
Thank
just
you.
say that there's different kind of bridges. You can
Yeah.
use a whistle, you can use a clicker. We have used clickers with our tigers, leopards, not whistle, but I'm sure you could do whatever.
Okay,
Doesn't
perfect.
matter.
Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Annette. I'm going to have to, I have another meeting I have to go to, so I will have to go. But just to say, obviously this recording will be sent around, and we are just discussing possibilities to extend this in terms of maybe including something in the upcoming EARS meeting. And I'm sure it sounds to me like there's opportunities there in the future for maybe some more webinars as well, some more specific things. But so yeah, this is the first, hopefully, on this subject of opportunities to learn more about it. So absolutely fascinating. And I think that very first video that you showed, as you said, encapsulates so much about the importance of it. And I think certainly within the rescue world, I think there's and maybe not just the rescue world, but animal welfare, animal rights sort of world, which we're maybe sort of more connected to in some ways. There's a concern there. The word training sometimes can have negative connotations in terms of training for unnatural behaviors and all those sorts of things. And obviously that first video makes it very clear that training for captured wildlife is obviously essential for improving welfare. So it's really, really interesting. So yeah, if we can leave it there for now. Sorry if there's any more questions. If you have got any more, please feel free to email me and I can send them through. I'm sure Annette would be happy to have a look at them. And and we'll be in touch again soon. But I'll be sending the recording around in the next day or so. But once again, just thank you so much, Annette, for giving us all this time. And it was really interesting.
Thank you so much, really.
Oh, thank you so much for supporting this. I feel very excited to move into another area of animal, care with the sanctuaries and everything.
Right.
So I'm really happy to share everything with you guys. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Thanks
Thank
everyone
you.
for coming.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.